I got stuff for you.
Holy moly. I need to get some snakes and release them around my house.
But they love eating people. They love eating kids.
These guys are the scientists of the supernatural, lecturers leaving lessons for inquiring laymen. They are applying the scientific method to a world that baffles science. They are the cryptids of the corn.
Every day that you open your mouth,
I know, right?
I'm more convinced that you're abducted by aliens.
No.
And it just stood up. I mean, it just like kept going and going. And she goes, what the?
These are idiots.
I was laughing reading this because I already knew how you would feel.
Idiot. What part of the story fits your balloon?
Well,
This isn't a UFO. But who else has big black wings and red eyes?
Batman.
Well, Mothman.
Oh yeah, Mothman.
Well, everyone, I think we know exactly what it is. So say it all with me. It was the sandhill crane.
Would you try it?
No.
You wouldn't eat it?
No.
Why?
Because they're probably toxic. There'd be a lot of poop in my pants. Seen a 6-foot alligator go swinging through the air and slam into a tree. Welcome back to Cryptids of the Corn podcast. I am the great and powerful Mr. E.
And I am J Clone 8.
Bum, bum, bum.
Yep, that's me.
You said that with a lot of confidence.
I did, because that's who I am.
Yes, I could see.
No fooling.
No fooling. No fooling, dog. All right. It's not just us.
We're
We have
joined by a guest today.
Yeah, a really cool encounter. She's coming on to share. I'm super excited. You know, it's one of our favorite categories we actually get to talk about in the show.
Yes.
So why don't you go ahead and do an intro, and then we'll invite her on.
Well, we are joined today by a newer listener to the show that first heard us on the Confessionals podcast. And she's had an experience that she's going to share with us today that inspired that episode that we did on the Confessionals, inspired her to contact us and share it with us. So let me introduce you all to Robin.
Robin, yay! Thank you. How you doing today?
I'm good. It's been a long day already, but I'm good.
Well, good.
Yeah, especially with what, if you don't mind sharing, what state are you in?
Arizona.
That's what I thought. So the time thing is always a problem.
Yeah.
The time zones,
Right, yeah.
especially like
Think
the Australians have been the worst as far as having to schedule something.
Yeah, well, yeah, because it's on the opposite side of the world.
It's like, who wants to get up at 8 a.m. and who wants to stay up till midnight? You know,
Right,
what do you want
yeah.
to do? But no, we're super excited to have you on. Jay has the littlest idea about your encounter. You sent me a big, nice chunk of the story. And I was like, we just have to talk about it because it's a crazy one. And then the tagline in the email will be the title of this episode, no matter how the episode goes, because it's fun. Yeah. But, I guess just tell us, I don't know if you want to start with your encounter or how you kind of found us with this information. However you want to go. We're pretty relaxed here.
Okay. I guess I can start with the encounter, but do you guys want me to start from like the beginning, like in the email?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So this was early 2000s. I was still in high school. We had moved to this house about that time, and it was super haunted, and there was crazy stuff that would happen outside the house, crazy stuff that would happen inside the house. But to be honest, from the house we moved from, that house was more haunted. And then we moved to this house and it was also haunted. But okay, so me and my younger sisters would sneak out at night. This one particular night, me and my one sister snuck out and weren't able to get back in. The usual way we would get in was from a back door that went into the laundry room. We would leave that unlocked before we sneak out, but somebody had locked it. Probably our mom discovered it, unlocked, and locked it. So we decided we would just hang out in the front yard till somebody woke up. we figured we would just spin this story to our mom that we were in the front yard, just kind of hanging out. And then everybody went to sleep and we decided we didn't want to wake anybody up, which wasn't a super far-fetched story. We did like hanging out in our front yard. But we were sitting on the tailgate of my mom's truck, just chit-chatting. And then dawn broke and lights started emanating the neighborhood. And I'm talking to my sister and I'm looking at my feet. And I realize my sister's she's not responding to me. She's very quiet. So I look up at her and she's looking down the street. And you could just see fear on her face. So I look over where she's looking, like I follow her eye line. And there's this thing. I don't know what to call it, but a thing. It was down the street, not very far. I said in the email 500 to 800 feet, but I don't think it was 800 feet.
Yeah.
It was under 800 feet away. But it was, you could see the space between where it ended and the road was probably about 2 or 3 feet of space between where it was and the road. It was triangular shaped, but rounded edges. And it had to have been, let's ballpark 12 feet long, because we could see it wasn't quite hitting the lamp, the lamp post that it was under. And those things are about 14 feet, I think. I hope this all makes sense.
Yeah, no, no, keep going. You're doing great.
Okay. And it had layers. It had tons of layers. It was all white. It had tons of layers, and all these layers were moving like this. They were undulating, but not in sync with each other. They were all undulating, separately from each other. And it was moving towards us very, very slowly. And I was just fascinated. I was just in awe. This thing didn't have eyes. I couldn't see a mouth. There was no hands or feet. And I look over at my sister to ask her, what do you think that is? Because I was just so fascinated by it. But my sister's gone. She's like, she was taken off to the backyard. So I followed her to the backyard. And we start pounding on that back door for somebody to wake up. My mom opens the back door and she's like, what the hell are you doing? And we start screaming that something came out of the portal. So like I said, this place was really haunted. And we kind of came up with this theory that there was a portal at that lamppost down the street, because that lamppost would flicker. So that was the only proof that we had that there was a portal, because it would flicker. But we were kids, and, it was all this paranormal stuff we were dealing with. And, we deduced it to some kind of crazy portal. So we were telling her that there was a portal, or something came out of the portal. We didn't know what it was. And we run to the bay window in the kitchen that faced out the front yard to show her what we were talking about, and it was gone. The only thing that I could think of is that once we started running, it freaked out and took off.
So this thing was flying towards you guys? Okay.
So very slowly. There's a bunch. We have a bunch of questions. So you're saying it's about 12 feet tall with about that 2-foot gap at the bottom.
Underneath it, between it and the road.
Triangular round shape. It kind of gives to me the Portuguese man o' war vibe. They're kind of pyramidal, but they're very rounded. They're fleshy. They're very rounded animals, but they have that kind of pyramidal shape. But then they're also gaseous filled. When you say layers, do you mean stacked layers or do you mean internal layers?
Well, what do you mean by internal layers?
Like, could you see stuff moving inside of it? Was that the stuff you were seeing moving, or was it all externally moving, or like the stuff that wasn't moving in secret?
Externally.
Okay. So it had its skin or whatever, had all these parts that were seemingly not moving, maybe in sequence, but forming one body.
And was the whole outside moving, or just the bottom half, like the bottom of it, closer to the road?
The whole outside was moving.
Moving like that wave pattern you were saying?
Yeah.
Okay, undulating. Like Celia, that's what it reminds me of.
Yeah, big bacteria.
Yeah.
That's one of the thoughts.
Or big amoeba.
Yeah, these things could be as those atmospheric amoebas. Literally, it's a book over there, one of the first books to really dive into this subject specifically. And you said this color was a pale white?
Yeah, it was white.
Yeah. What's your next question?
White, but see-through, right? Or no?
No.
Not see-through at all?
So it was pretty...
No.
It wasn't transparent.
Okay.
Which is pretty rare for these guys.
Yeah.
For this type, this thing.
Well, we've seen some of them that have that cloud kind of...
Ruined it.
Yeah, shoot.
Yeah, I think you got me.
Uh-oh.
I cheated because I read the encounter.
Okay.
But save the cloud thing for just a minute.
I mean, a cloud of excitement that we're embarking upon.
So it was kind of moving at you pretty slow, but how wide do you think the creature was? You said it's probably 12 foot tall with that 2 foot gap. How wide do you think it was coming down the street?
So it took up more than half of that road.
So fairly big.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was fairly big.
Yeah. So, I mean, do you have any questions before we get into that thing?
Huh. No, I mean,
okay.
I feel like I'm picturing it in my head very well.
Yeah. I personally, what I think was happening, you remember Christina's encounter?
From Australia, Christina?
No, Christina from Cincinnati, Christina.
Oh, okay. Yes, I do, actually.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what it reminded me of, exactly.
Okay.
So our friend...
Going through the tree line.
Our friend had seen a cloud during a tornado storm get knocked out of the sky, hit like the middle of the street, and quickly kind of float down the street and hide into the tree line to where then it changed the texture to match the trees. I kind of think maybe something similar has happened here with these jellyfish type entities in the upper atmosphere. They camouflage, right? We say they look like clouds. They can change their external. I kind of wonder if you caught it changing from cloud to something else. So all these movements and layers on the skin are actually these micro muscles changing the physical texture of the skin. That's why it looks all, waves and stuff like that. It's trying to adapt to, I'm stuck down here now. I got to look like something. Yeah. And now these kids are screaming at me. So when your mom came out, it was probably still there, but didn't look like a cloud anymore, or didn't look like this big white triangle anymore. It could have been, mimicking the trees behind it. Because we've talked, with these things, they'll almost panic like an octopus will, and just be like, okay, everybody can see me. Yeah. I got to pick something to look, and that's exactly what happened with Christina. So was there that previous night? Previous couple days even? Were there any storm systems that went through or anything like that? I know it's a long time ago.
Not that I can recall.
Yeah.
And what's Arizona too? I mean, the weather's not too crazy out in Arizona, right? It's pretty predictable.
Well, we have our monsoon season,
right,
and that gets pretty crazy.
But when that season is. It's not like in the
a freak storm.
Yeah, outside of that.
Right.
But yeah, immediately that's what I thought of is Christina's encounter. It reminds me so much of Robin's encounter.
And two, I had a question. The area it was in, was it like a residential area with a lot of houses? Was it pretty spaced out?
No, it's residential.
Okay.
I actually still live in the neighborhood. I just don't live in the same house.
Yeah.
And just up the street, like a quarter of a mile from that old house, is the freeway.
Oh, so very busy.
Yeah,
it's a very busy area.
Wow.
So that's why I said in my email, I always tried to wonder, why would it be there?
Right.
And then that's when after listening to you on Uncomfortable, that's when I thought, was it trying to eat us? Because it was dawn, right?
Yeah.
We were the only ones there. Maybe it saw us and was like easy prey because there's nobody around but then.
So the living clouds, there's a big mixture of both in that camp. So where there are stories of them eating people
or just
animals, whatever,
things,
because they kind of do this. If all the encounters are true or most of them are true, whatever, they'll kind of sponge up an area where corals, for example, a very simple animal, but they're really good at this. They can actually turn like the outsides of their stuff really acidic, the outsides of their body really acidic. Essentially they turn their outsides of their body into stomachs. They use stomach acid to fight and dissolve other corals. So they're kind of eating with the outside of their body.
Right.
So these living fogs or living clouds, like the pink mist of Ireland, has never really. People are scared of it. They talk about it eating people, but they say how you avoid being hurt by it is you lay down flat. And a couple of the eyewitnesses that have survived into modern day to kind of talk about it say it felt like a giant's dog's tongue.
Or a cat's tongue.
Yeah. Going over your entire body. Where it was wet and hot, but it still had roughness to it.
Like that texture.
And, and they all survived because they went over top. Then the fog in Florida, nothing survived that. It was just in there for, what was it? We talked about it. It was a long time ago. Maybe at 5 years. It was like maybe a juvenile one because it wasn't very big.
Yeah, the small, yeah.
But it would literally leave cleaned bones behind. And it reminded me very much of like a big amoeba. It's just using the front of its body to shove into things that it can break down and dissolve. But they're not very fast. Nobody that's ever had one of these encounters with this big or small ones say that they're extremely quick. So a lot of it's just animals like squirrels or turkeys that may not be paying attention to something that looks more gaseous, more like a cloud. When people tend to be like, that
don't look right.
That don't look right, like the thing coming for you. So in all honesty, it could have, and we don't know how they view the world, like as in, is it thermal? Is it, echolocation? Is it visual? We don't know what senses they have to interpret.
Electromagnetic.
Yeah. We don't know what senses they're using to hunt or detect prey or to avoid things. So it could have sensed you and your sister, and it could have been curious, where it was coming over just to see what it was, and then you guys got up and freaked out, and that could have freaked it out. Or it could have been this slow, giant, amoeba-like creature hunting you guys, and it's probably a good thing you noticed it. I mean, we've talked about it, that missing 411 and all this stuff.
Yeah.
How many people were camping and just didn't notice the cloud sneaking up on them?
Why would you?
I mean, to you, I guess what feelings did you get from it when you seen it? I would love to see one of these things. We've talked so much about it. That's so much research. So what? I guess
I was honestly amazed. I was fascinated. If it wasn't for my sister running, I don't think I would have ran.
Yeah.
I would have probably been eaten. I don't know, but I probably would have tried to get closer to it, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I'm one of those people, I run into the danger, but yeah.
But you felt it was an animal of some kind and you seen it. You had that feeling?
Yeah. Yeah, because like I said in my email, I've dealt with ghosts all my life. I've dealt with so much paranormal stuff. And this one encounter was so different. It didn't feel, to be honest, it didn't feel paranormal.
Right.
It felt like seeing a rare animal in the wild. That's what it felt like to me.
Which, like we told you off air, when this comes out the same week as there are another installment of the Sky Manta Rays, which are a little bit different than the type you've seen as far as we can tell from our research. But it's so awesome how many people have that feeling seeing these things.
Yeah.
Through different countries, different parts of the world. Like, it's insane that how many people describe it kind of the same way you're describing. It's like seeing a whale. You're not, it's huge. You're not scared of the thing, but a whale can kill you as fast as it, can flinch. But people look at him and, they're like, oh, this is so awesome to be around this thing. Because they're not going to ever hurt you on purpose kind of deal, And whether it was hunting you or it got stuck down there.
Or just curious, yeah.
Now, I do have another question.
Ooh.
What's with the manta ray episode? Are there any bodies of water nearby?
Where we are now, I mean, there's large man-made lakes a few miles north.
So that seems to be in the drier states, including in drier countries like Australia. It's mountain ranges and large bodies of water are where these guys are seen by a lot. And we don't know if they may be, we talked about it in that episode, that they may be skim feeding to where if times are tough, they may be able to kind of skim the surface of the water and filter out plankton and all kinds of stuff. But that may make them really heavy until they're done digesting. So they may not be able to get back up. until they're done with that. So there could be that, or it was...
Yeah, he could have been just taking a stroll through the neighborhood.
Well, trying to digest, and, now there's kids screaming at it, and it's like, gosh.
It's like,
I don't know what to do.
No one's usually out this early.
Yeah, I'm trying to get back and hide in the woods. Or reproductive things. And I don't think man-made versus natural really matters for either one of those. If you can fly, when we talk about some of the other species using man-made lakes, why they struggle so much is because they have to use waterways to get there.
Right.
So if you man-make it, there's not those natural pathways to get there. If you can fly,
it's no problem.
It really doesn't matter as long as there's food there. Because there was a lot with the manta rays being around water sources. The one from there, I believe it was the Kentucky one with the ovipositor.
Oh, yeah.
Literally almost the same story.
Yeah.
Different shaped animal.
Yep.
Same story as you just shared with us. That this giant manta ray was coming basically down the street, hovering really low. And the lady just felt, she described it like you described, seeing a whale, but it's huge, the size of a Boeing. This animal she's seeing. And she doesn't get in her house, doesn't freak out, just is sitting there just like, wow. And it was dragging an organ behind it. She's like, I don't know if it was tail or legs and stuff like that. And we talk about it in the episode being an ovipositor. I don't know if you know what that is.
No.
So a lot of invertebrates and some large animals, including things like sauropods, they had a little bit different. It's a different name, but same thing. It is a sexual organ to deposit eggs. So crickets, for example, how do you tell a male and female cricket is crickets lay their eggs deep in the ground. So a cricket will have a long, people call them tails, but it's the ovipositor. It looks like a needle off the back of them.
Yeah.
That's a female. So she'll stick that needle into the ground so she can lay her eggs deep. So this big manta ray was, when she described it, was literally coming off of a river. And she's like, there's a river down there, maybe a quarter mile, 2 miles away, something like that. But it was started off the ground probably, I think she was talking now I can't remember. We recorded it a couple days ago. 14 feet off the ground, but by the time it got between her and her neighbor's house, it was above the houses.
Going up, yep.
Slowly working its way back up into the atmosphere.
Slowly ascending.
And I wonder, we have so many accounts like that, whether it's the Christina's one where, it was injured, what we think, because it freaked out really fast. Your encounter, which we don't know what it was doing there. We don't know if it wanted to eat you or if it was laying eggs or, it was digging through the trash.
Or just enjoying a morning stroll.
There's a whole thought that these things, these giant amoeba more things, and more like the manta rays or the sky snakes or whatever, but the more amoeba-like things, maybe just eating off of human garbage. They may just be there at night going through dumps and like oil pits and stuff like that. Stuff that humans may not even realize are food. But when you're a more basal animal, it is a food source. Long time ago, we did oil pit squids. Remember that?
Yeah. A long time ago.
And these squid-like animals live in oil pits, and it turned out, in my opinion, it was a type of worms that I seen in my line of work previously. That they love petroleum. They don't care. They'll be in petroleum products. They'll sit in vats of oil.
And thrive.
Yeah. Another thing, when you seen the layers on the skin moving in a way, it was kind of, how big would you say each layer was? I guess I'm just trying to picture it in my head.
From where we were to where it was, it looked pretty wide. Like each layer was
Pretty thick.
goodness. Yeah, pretty thick.
Okay. Another thought I had was the cyanophores.
Okay.
Is, so I mentioned one earlier, the man-o-war, which people think is a jellyfish, and it's not, looks very jellyfish-esque, but it's actually a cyanophore, which is a colony of smaller animals, all kind of basically holding hands to make one big body. So when you describe these multiple layers kind of doing their own thing in forming one big body, that's kind of maybe one of the thoughts I had. Is it maybe a type of atmospheric cyanophore? And whether they're hurting or panicked or whatever, and everybody's just trying to figure out what everybody else is doing. Because there's normally governing animals inside these things. They kind of tell everybody, okay, this is what everybody needs to do.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's very interesting.
I'm still thinking more amoeba-like thing with its movement,
Sure.
in a wave pattern like that. Just you think it's navigating the atmosphere, or is that for something else?
I have no idea.
Right, yeah.
The wave. So I really believe these things. These type, like you've seen, the triangle shape is pretty unique. Mm-hmm. And it didn't have wings or nothing like that, like the manta ray shapes, right?
Correct.
Okay, just want to make sure. Because the amoebas are normally not a very hard shape. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of why it makes me wonder if it was trying to camouflage.
Oh, just working.
It was really trying hard to depict something
Get the
so it
texture
could
right.
hide.
Yeah.
Because they're normally like very, almost like an egg. Like when you crack an egg, the edges are pretty much like liquid. Even though it's all held together by a membrane, it looks like it's liquid splaying out. And then the internals, the big center. I know you said you didn't see any eyes or anything like that. Did you see any distinctive colorings, anything different on the outside appearance?
No, just the white color, the like you're talking about the egg and the clearness. It didn't have that where it was like splayed out like that. You could see it was pretty solid all around. Mm-hmm. But yeah, nothing too distinct.
It almost makes me think it was like tensed up.
Okay.
You know what I mean? I'm trying to hold this shape. I'm trying to do something. And that could have been from camouflage. It could have also been because it was moving down the street.
Yeah.
There are hard objects like the light posts, trash cans, fire hydrants that we talk about with these atmospheric creatures. They're probably pretty soft. So running into hard metal, non-movable objects
doesn't feel very good.
It's going to hurt, if not kill.
Yeah. Rip it apart.
So it may have been like a fat man does. I could speak from experience. When you try to suck in a little bit to get around stuff, and it's like,
y'all tensed up.
Yeah,
you're undulating.
Yeah, well, it happens.
Yeah,
it happens. I don't know. It's very interesting.
Yeah.
You have anything else?
I wish I could. There was like some sort of video or something to compare it to, or I don't know, just something. Have you ever seen anything online that looks even remotely similar to what you saw?
No, and I spent a lot of time just this past year trying to find something. I even went on an AI generator and put in the description of it.
Yeah.
It couldn't even generate the picture of it. So I was like, no, I could never find anything. There is an interesting story, though. You guys are talking about the manta rays. Earlier this year, there was a news story of an older woman living at home alone, and this was around 7 a.m. in the morning. I don't remember where in the valley she lived, but she said it sounded like bombs were hitting her house, and it had this loud booming sound, kept happening repeatedly over and over again, and she was just so scared she didn't know what to do, and then it stopped. And later that day, one of her neighbors came and said, "Hey, did you know there's damage to your roof?" And they showed pictures of her roof, and it was quite damaged. But nobody's security cameras in her neighborhood caught anything on her roof around this time. But she heard it. She heard something was hitting her roof, causing all this damage over and over and over again. And when I heard that story, that's what I thought. I thought some kind of sky giant
is beating up on the roof. And I think you may be right. I don't know if we've ever shared this publicly on the show because we've never done an episode on it yet, and it's just one we haven't got around to yet. I kind of think they may be responsible for the real crop circles.
Oh, gotcha.
Because I think... we talk about... So the white-spotted pufferfish, for example, is a fish about the size of your hand. They're very, very... they're very tiny fish, relatively speaking, and for the ocean. They make... we didn't know what these patterns were forever. Have you ever seen their nest? You ever seen the picture of the pufferfish nest? They can be up to 110 feet wide. They have intricate patterns. You've seen like crocheted doilies and stuff like that with like the patterns. Yeah. They look kind of like that. Each pufferfish does its own pattern. It's hyper unique. We thought they were man-made, alien-made. Ancient Aliens a long time ago had an episode about it before we knew who was doing it.
Really?
Yeah. Saying that these are underwater crop circles.
Well, ancient astronaut theorists say yes.
It was not a fish. They'll even go out of their way to collect stuff like gold and put it in the grooves to make them extra shiny and stuff like that. So my thought is the real, and I have a lot of opinions about crop circles because I do believe 80% are fake-ish. You know, that somewhere in there, I think a lot of them are just people goofing off. But the weird ones where the stalks are almost like melted and bent in a weird way, sure, there's something there.
There's a big difference between authentic and...
But I think it's 80-20 or 85-15, somewhere in there.
I'm disappointed in you. You'll turn.
No.
Well, you'll turn over.
I think that they may be mating displays for these creatures. And they build them because everybody's like, you can only see this thing from the sky.
Right.
Well, yeah. So it's the biggest environment, the upper atmosphere. You've heard us talk about it. Everybody at home's heard us talk about it. If this is your first intro to this episode, please, we have like 12, 15 hours on upper atmospheric animals. Start somewhere else. Because we're skipping a lot of stuff to get to here.
Right, yeah.
I kind of think that they may build these big things and hang out around the top of them. Because they're partially, we talk about lazy guys are translucent. So finding a mate can be really hard in the biggest environment on the planet. Right now we have blue whales that can't find other blue whales, and they can talk for over 1,000 miles away from each other.
Would their patterns all be the same?
No, I think they'd be, I think they can be. I think it could be species-oriented. Yeah. It could be individual-oriented. I don't know. There's a lot of questions there that...
We should do, like, some research, like, get measurements of all the crop.
We'll come back to that.
Compare it to the pufferfish.
So I think they do. I think they are building them, and they have some kind of enzyme that may help them bend the stalks and not break stuff, and all this stuff. And they kind of hang out in the sky around them, so the females or the other opposite sex can see this on the ground and see how big and strong. Normally, it's a male doing this, so how big and strong the male is. Because stuff like we know now, like Quetzalcoatlus, big pterosaurs, they did this where they would build on beaches these big displays. And because they're giant flying animals, it's very hard for them to find mates.
Like a SOS.
Yeah, exactly. So a female be flying over down the coast and see this. Okay, now I know there's an available male, here.
Like, that looks pretty.
But she can also tell a lot about his health by how big the logs are, or how, like for these guys, it may be how complex the design is.
That made me think of something, too. A lot of the UFO sites that are, I'd say, considered real have, like, the nodes, where they're swollen, or there's radioactivity.
Yeah, and we think these guys eat radioactivity. Like, they're living in environments that are super radioactive.
Well, here's a thought, though. Same thing with Mothman when people, get close.
Yes.
What if these creatures are from, other dimension kind of things? And that's, like she said, the portal, it did come through the portal and, like, made itself apparent. Or what if it's just navigates in that way, shape, or form? What if they're cleaners of the earth, like...
So, dimensional bacteria is another thing. We'll come back. Let's hop back to the roof.
Okay.
So I wonder if it could have been one of these creatures literally beating the crap out of this roof.
What if it was injured and it was trying to get up?
That could be too. It's literally there flapping like a dolphin on the beach.
Landed.
They're very strong, but if they're stuck, they're stuck.
Yeah.
It could be that, or the display, or even bull elephants, for example. Young bull elephants, they're really bad for the environment because they get these testosterone flares, and they'll kill cows, they'll kill calves, they'll kill, they'll rip up trees out of the ground. They're highly destructive when they're trying to make that transition from being a juvenile to an adult bull.
Yeah.
It could be something like that, where this is a young, adult or young adult trying to make that transition, has maybe a lot of sexual frustration, found a house to beat the hell out of. Something it's close to its size.
Oh, no.
And it starts punching his house.
I hope punching it with its fists.
Or it could be something else, too.
Yeah.
It
Maybe
could be
she
like
painted
ducks.
it the wrong color.
It could be like ducks. And it thought that house was really pretty.
Yeah.
No, I love that. I think it could be any of it.
Maybe it was its ovipositor that was making
ovipositor just smacking the roof.
Yeah, trying to deposit eggs in their house, in their attic.
Now, before we continue any further, I want to ask you, how do you now? Because I didn't really give you any information in the emails what I thought, because you were going to come on and talk, so I really didn't want to. Now that we've talked about it a minute, do you have any opinions that have changed or any new thoughts that have come? Sorry, Wi-Fi dropped.
Well, since I wrote the email, I thought, because I listened to too many paranormal podcasts. Somebody did the Hitchhikers episode.
Okay.
Right, just recently. And so that made me wonder, because you guys, said maybe it was a portal. So what if because the house was so haunted, what if it was like a hitchhiker's, scenario?
Now,
One came before the other.
so have you ever heard my Bigfoot encounter on our show? Have you got that far back yet?
No.
So I grew up in an extremely demonic haunted house. Also
Yeah.
had Bigfoot stuff. So I do, to me, my Bigfoot was, and we talk about the 3 types of Bigfoot, the rough 3 types. I really thought my Bigfoot was flesh and blood, but doesn't mean it's not connected to the paranormal stuff that happened at the house. I think so in physics, there are forces that are newly discovered all the time that change or adapt the old laws of physics all the time. Some scientists act like that doesn't exist, what I just said. Others are really open about it. And we know we have a pretty big scientist following now, which is crazy. Because it's a lot of open-minded scientists that have experienced these things, and they know half of their community won't accept, no, the laws of physics have always been the same. No, they change every 4 or 5 years. Something happens where they change. So I kind of wonder if there is a fundamental force that is hidden as of now that pulls what we would call things like paranormal entities, whether it's your sky jellyfish, your haunted house, your hitchhikers, the black-eyed kids, kind of have these almost like magnetism for those type of things, where you have these areas where it could be a house, it could be a person, it could be a whole, like the Hockomock Swamp. I don't know how big or small
Areas
these areas can be. I wonder if it's something like that, to where you have, and it can affect supernatural animals is kind of, I guess, the best way to call it. These animals that are extra. So whether it's a giant atmospheric jellyfish, he's just hanging around, and he may not even know why he's there, kind of deal. We talk about it with like sharks and magnets, for example. It really screws with their head. It'll both attract, depending on your magnet, you can attract them or repel them, and they don't even know it's happening.
Right.
You can, sharks will literally murder themselves on buoys and stuff like that because of a small magnet, because it fries their head. But you can also attract them with small magnets too, and they don't know what they're following. I wonder if there's something there with that, with the paranormal, whether it could be portals, where they're coming through from somewhere else, just because the portal's attractive.
Right, exactly.
Whether it's, it smells good, there's a food source on the other side kind of deal, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like a bear. A bear's going to follow its nose.
Wherever it goes.
Yeah, nowhere it goes. But a bear's going to go wherever it smells like food. So if you eat trash or trash-like things,
You're going to go to it.
a portal opens up to our world. That smells really good.
Yeah, it smells like trash.
A lot of petroleum.
Do electromagnetic waves affect light waves at all?
Okay, I'm not a physicist. Light, I'm not sure. Electromagnetic waves affect a lot of things,
Right, yeah.
including gravity.
What if she is near some portal area and what causes a portal, Is it electromagnetic anomaly?
I think it's electromagnetic anomalies. Well, we've talked about that in the Skinwalker Ranch series.
What if she was looking, they just got the right angle, caught it, and that
could
light,
see in it?
that light flickers? Like maybe that's when it flickers when it spikes or strong, when that veil's thin. What if these things are always just there, but the perspective she was looking at it through made it visible in our light spectrum just for those moments?
So that they talk about that with the military in Vietnam when they first did infrared. Infrared's green now. It's not red.
Right. It's
It's green.
right. It's like night vision, right?
Yeah. So when it was infrared, they would say they would see demons in the sky all the time. People, whole platoons would shoot at things they couldn't see, and they switched it to green, and that stopped. So, like you're saying, what if they're always there, and Robin, got the small chance, the right conditions. She was looking right at it the right way.
Like when you're spraying your hose and the mist setting's just
the rainbow
right.
forms?
And the
Yeah.
rainbow season. Yeah.
And she got to see one of these things. It was always probably there. It was always maybe makes that same path every night.
Right, yeah. It's morning walk.
It's a morning walk. It's going for a jog.
You guys ruined it.
But if, true infrared, they banned from a lot of military exercises unless it's super black ops,
Oh, really?
because it's a lot better.
Yeah.
So why would the military get rid of it? And
Something
somebody's
that's
going to
better.
write in that I'm wrong about that. That's fine. Please. I know we have a lot of military, active military. If I'm wrong, let me know. You know how to do it. Email cryptidsofcornpodcast@gmail.com.
There you go.
I just read a whole bunch of corrections the other day.
That's good though.
I if you email me the correction, I'll read it on the.
Yeah, absolutely. The goal
As long as
is
you're not mean about it. As long as you're not hurtful.
Then you just delete it and then tell me about it.
I do delete a lot of things just so everybody knows.
Tell me about it maybe 2 or 3 times and then you're over it.
I'm over it. I don't care anymore. No, so the portal. Yeah. I don't know. This is really interesting so far.
It is, yeah.
You have a lot of.
I have something to add to that if you guys want to
please.
hear. So, a couple years ago, we lived at this house just for a year because in this part of town, there was so much construction we couldn't handle it. So we're like, forget it. We're moving back to our old part of town. But in this house, it was weird because it was like living in somebody's memories, and I would hear things like people singing or somebody talking very happily, and I would feel there was this one time where I felt like this electrical charge when I was hearing these voices. And then I started having these dreams. And in this one dream, I walked up to a window in this house, but instead of looking outside, I was looking into a messy bedroom. And one of my sisters was there, but she was much younger. And she's playing with our dog, Peanut, who has since passed away. And she looks over at the window and she makes eye contact with me. And she slowly stands up and I can see she is so scared. And that dream felt so real. I couldn't get it out of my mind the next day. And then I remembered that sister told me about a woman who pressed herself up against the window in that bedroom of that old house with the portal. And then I remembered seeing a full-figured apparition in that house of a woman who looks like me now.
Oh, you time traveled.
At that time, I didn't register that's me. I was like, right, Jesus be gone.
You don't know you're going to look like.
Yeah.
No, that's
very interesting.
Yeah. And so you time traveled in a dream.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In a dream.
I really think it's something with these portal areas. Why? So we never got to it. Why did you guys decide there was a portal down there? Just because of the light?
Just because so much stuff would happen, and then that light would flicker, and we would it was the only light that flickered on the street, and we were like, there's got to be a portal there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was a man that I would see almost nightly on a bike, and he had like a fisherman's hat,
Mm-hmm.
And he would come every night right in front of the house, a young man. And then one night, I'd catch him riding the bike, but his face is like doing this, right? Like I can't make it out anymore. And I was like squinting and leaning closer into the window, and it was like I couldn't make out his face anymore. And then the next day, he was an old man riding a bike with a fisherman's hat on. And ever since then, he was an old man riding the bike.
So you got time slips and giant jellies.
And giant jellies.
What if
in a very populated area?
We talked about this a long time ago. This thought I'm about to say. We already said it once in this episode. That these interdimensional bacteria, where they may be feeding on a festering wound in reality. And we haven't talked about that since probably the second episode we ever did on this. Mm-hmm. That if you have these portals areas, these and I've called them tears personally, because I think there's natural ones that the Earth just has for whatever reason, whether a meteor hit there, 200 million years ago, or some volcano erupted, or whatever, or we talked about under Point Pleasant where we think they opened one like Stranger Things, where they basically forced a tear into whatever this fabric's the best word for it.
Sure,
this material that kind of binds or separates realities. And these big amorphous things may be like bacteria, like in our wounds, that cause infections, or that feed on it. There's all this wounded material around that could be a food source, leaking all kinds of radiations we can't even detect yet. You're living out in one of the states that has extremely high levels of weird cancer. We talked about that, that whole the Four Corners area, of how much, and when nobody can explain it, or really can explain it. We talked about that. I think at the very end of the Uinta Basin saga.
Yeah, I think it was the very end.
The very end, because it was the missing people and the cancer rates. Because it's crazy. It's insane.
Correlated.
So what if it's a tear? Your guy, the time slip, the old man, young man, he may not even been real. We talk about these residual hauntings, because you've seen him doing the same exact thing every day, right?
Same exact thing. And I never saw him outside of that moment.
So that, to me, screams residual haunting. Not conscious, nothing's, in my opinion, nothing's really there. It's kind of like a flashpoint on the earth, to where it's like a photo, where whatever reason, it just keeps repeating. You time slipped yourself, it seems. Whether, I don't know what you call that. You're sleepwalking, like not sleepwalking as in getting up and walking in your sleep. Like people can almost astrally project while they're asleep.
Well, I have a waking time slip story if you want to hear that one.
Yeah,
Definitely.
Absolutely.
I have a lot of crazy stories.
Or just keep going. I love it. Because it's the more you're doing, the more it really does seem connected. If you first just say it, it really, you can come off not connected, right? Like mine, Bigfoot and Shadow Person.
Overlapping, though.
Right, but they overlap, but not, but she's, this portal thing, even though it sounds like there may be just this spot.
Right.
I think you may have a demon buried in your street, is what I'm getting at.
Oh, okay.
No, continue. Sorry.
Okay, so this was about 2011. We had just had our second kid, and we wanted to move into a bigger place. We were living in a 2-bedroom apartment with one kid, so we wanted to move into a bigger place. And we went to look at a townhome, and we walked in, they were showing us the home that was available, and we walked in and it had that musty, moldy smell.
Mm-hmm.
And, they're showing us around, and we get to the living room area, and I look down at the carpet and I'm like, oh man, this is what smells. We're going to have to wash this carpet before we move in. So then we leave and we're talking about how, we want the place. But I tell my husband we're going to have to wash that carpet. And he said, in what room? And I said, the living room. It smelled musty, like they used dirty water to wash it. And he said, Robin, there wasn't carpet in the living room. And I was like, okay, try to gaslight me. There was carpet in the living room, and we have to wash it. And he was like, no, babe, there wasn't any carpet in that living room. And he knew of the townhome community because he had used to live there with his dad and brothers. And he was like, they used to have carpet, but then there was a period where they were upgrading all the townhomes and they went through and pulled the carpet. And I was like, well, they didn't pull the carpet in this one. And, it became this thing where he swore there was no carpet in there. I swore there was. And then when we get to moving in, I was like, I'm going to show you. And we get in there and there's no carpet.
Wow.
Was the smell still there?
But I stood on carpet.
Yeah.
What was that?
Was the smell still there?
No, the smell wasn't there.
A big mix of different senses.
It's very weird.
I mean,
yeah.
Is it though?
I mean, with everything we've heard and seen, no.
I know. At this point,
but yes, it is.
It is. It is weird. Do you think that? Now, when you grew up in the haunted house, were other people experiencing the haunted stuff as well, besides you?
Yes.
Okay, just making sure, because we've met several people. I fully believe everybody.
Oh yeah, or
of the group I'm about to talk about.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
That I do think it's connected to some people, like people that, and there's people that want attention and everything like that in this field, and that's fine. It's whatever. But we have people that I believe that have Bigfoot encounters pretty regularly, see ghosts and all, and it's them. Not saying that they're experiencing these things, whether they're more open to it, or I kind of really think it's like brain problems, but not like in a bad way. Like I
have brain problems.
No, like mutations in our optic nerves or mutations in something to where we may be getting those people may be getting a little bit more information than the average person. And we talked about it with like the duck test, where, when you're driving down the highway and you see a pond on the side of the road and they're all mallards or they're all Canadian geese. Until you look, and sometimes there's not even a mallard in there. There's purple-headed geese. There's all kinds of crazy colors. But 2 minutes before that, you'd swear
all mallards,
all green-headed ducks. So that's the normal human brain. I do think some humans are born with it where you don't have that filter, to where you get it how it is, because our brain wants the easiest path. So if the easiest path is if you see a shadow move. Okay, the easiest path is to just not pay attention to that. That didn't happen. You're mistaken. Me, you, Jay, whatever. We see a shadow move. I'm going, and I'm dealing with that. Right now. So that you stepped on carpet, you smelled it. You had a full time slip. So how long had it been? Did he say since they pulled up the carpet?
I think a few years.
What do you think about that?
I don't know. I mean, I believe you. I just don't know how to even. I can't even imagine experiencing that, because you walked on it, right? Or did you just see it?
I walked on it.
Yeah.
No, I walked on it.
I can't imagine.
Well, you remember we did the time slip episode for Patreon.
I guess I can't even imagine how I would feel walking. Knowing I walked on this, being adamant about it, and then going back and seeing.
Well, I could see why she thought her husband gaslighted her, because I could do that. Me and Emily do that to each other all
absolutely.
the time. All the time.
Absolutely.
Sometimes you don't even do it on purpose.
I know, yeah.
We're both very strong personalities.
And then you walk in the room. Oh, okay, never mind.
Whoever's wrong won't ever admit it.
No, just walk away.
Like, no, there was carpet here.
It's like, no,
you pulled it up.
Yeah,
you pulled it up while I was sleeping.
Yep.
No, a waking time slip. And so with time slips, we talked about it where one of the really famous ones we covered in the Patreon episode was that military platoon in the UK. They were doing like these. It was like a contest for, basically, I'm trying to compare, like the Army when you're still in camp and training.
Okay.
They do these contests here in America to like get from point A to point B or whatever. So these guys were doing that for the UK's army, for England's army, and they were going through the British countryside, and they came into this weird small town, and they said, there was no weird transition, like they had a really strong smell. And they never really went into what it sounded like, because this is like the 70s, I think. So they never really talked about if it smelled like mold or, what the smell was. But they had a really strong smell. And then they went into town. They talked to the butcher. You remember that? They talked to all these people.
Mm-hmm.
They left town. They were like 4.5 hours late. They were fighting with their sergeant saying, no, we weren't. Like, no, we walked straight here. We went through the town. We walked straight here. We talked to everybody. Go ask them. We just walked right through town. Well, the town was a historical site. Nobody had lived there in 400 or 500 years. And so they experienced like this flashback. Mm-hmm. But it was a whole town, like the butcher shop, like everything was still ish the same, but it's like a living museum. Like there's nobody there though. Yeah. But they said they watched a guy butcher a pig. Like they're like, that's really weird that they're doing it in public. Like,
still active.
Like, yeah, like they're, actively processing an animal where the public can see.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's amazing. It's just, but other people have experienced what you experienced, It's interesting that it was an individualized level, though.
Right, yeah.
Because her husband didn't experience it.
Mm-hmm. Like, inhabiting the same space but having separate experiences. Yeah.
It's very unique. Right. I mean, I love it.
Yeah, it's great. What's the next one?
So the next one.
This is called The Book of Robin.
Ever since that house where I was having the dreams, I still have these crazy vivid dreams. And for a while, I was having this one where I was in a trailer park, which I didn't think anything of it, because when I was a child, we spent a short time in a mobile home community. Mm-hmm. So I was just thinking, having a dream being in a mobile home community is not a big deal. But then one night I am having this dream. Let me go into a little more detail. So every time I would have a dream with this trailer park, it was always nighttime, but it was super, super dark. And it was a big trailer park, and I would walk around happy, free flowing. There was only one time that I went into a trailer, but other than that, I was just walking around. And one night I have a dream where I'm walking in front of the trailer park with a sister. And I look at her and I say, hey, I know this place. Where are we? And she looks at me stone cold, not blinking, and goes, Roanoke. And I said, Roanoke? What's in Roanoke? And then I woke up. So after a little bit, maybe a few weeks, I decided to look up, Roanoke, was it Virginia?
Mm-hmm.
Mobile home communities. And I'm just going through and looking at pictures, Google Map and everything. And nothing. And then I found it.
Wow.
And I go into Google Maps, you could walk around.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that looks familiar. That person's yard looks familiar. That wind chime looks familiar. I know this place. And then I'm scanning like the perimeter kind of at an upward angle, and it's surrounded by these huge trees. And my thought was, no wonder it's so dark at night.
Mm-hmm.
And that thought coming so naturally freaked me out so bad. I closed out the browser and I didn't look it up again.
So you've never been to Roanoke in person?
Nope.
Yeah, that's a long way away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm about to talk about something I have very limited understanding of. We have a friend, though, I'm going to suggest that she needs to probably talk to about that.
Yeah.
Do you know about astral projection at all?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of what it sounded like to me. There's some that say you can do it with time. So like with your sister seeing you, in the past, present kind of deal. You were in the present, she was in the past. The carpet, and then this, ending up in a different space, a trailer park. Probably from you, I'm going to guess right around 3,000 miles.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Almost the exact opposite side of the country.
Yeah.
It almost seems like you're maybe projecting. Like you or your spirit is ending up in these places. And I don't know obviously you're not doing it on purpose.
Right.
So I don't know if it's one of these things like, a baby has to learn how to walk, has to learn how to talk. It's a natural ability that they have, but they have to learn how to develop it. So like Atlas, my son, he just screams. He knows how to use his voice. He doesn't know how to talk, but he just makes noise and stuff like that. I kind of wonder if you are one of these people born with this skill and you don't have it developed enough yet to control it, to end up where you want to go or pick, these things, but you still do it. Like you don't know you're doing it maybe sometimes. Like the old guy you see, he's always rides his bike the same day. The carpet, Roanoke, Virginia. You're ending up in Roanoke. Which we love Roanoke.
Yeah, we've been there.
A bunch, yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny because it's not it's a decent sized little city, but it's not like a metropolitan area.
Was that the
Southwest Virginia?
Southwest
Mike
Virginia?
And Karen,
Okay,
yeah.
yep.
I kind of wonder if you have that ability, and you may be more, or your whole family may be open to these paranormal things. I really think that paranormal activity happens to everybody everywhere their whole lives.
Just if you're aware of it or not.
Whether you're aware of it or not, you choose to accept it or not.
Right.
Because we talked about my grandpa, when we first started doing this, I've never seen anything weird in my life. And then the more I started doing this and the more, he started sharing, he's like, well, I have seen a UFO. And we did have rock apes throw stuff, and it's just like, people always are experiencing things. Like, Bigfoot sightings are up 4,000% over the last couple decades. It's not, in my opinion, because people are seeing more Bigfoot. It's because it's more widely accepted to talk about.
Because our show, probably.
Yes, just us.
Yeah, okay.
But no, it's we're speakers at the Hocking Hills Bigfoot Festival. 75,000 people now show up for a Bigfoot festival. So 2 decades ago,
even Bigfoot might this year.
Even Bigfoot is there, but 2 decades ago that didn't happen. There were festivals. Don't get me wrong, but it wasn't nothing
Not
like
this.
that.
Yeah, it's really grown a lot. And
we sit down and we share. Like, you walk up to there'll be campfires and hangouts after and stuff. And you walk up to anybody and you're like, "What do you think about Bigfoot?" And they're happy to talk about it. 2 decades ago, 3 decades ago, that people it would be very negative to come out talking
For sure. I would say it's a modern day, very good icebreaker for
the community
anybody.
rerun.
Yeah, absolutely that. But
So I kind of wonder if you have that ability. Your whole family may have that ability. As far as I know, I think sometimes it is genetic, to where like if your mom or dad can do this thing, you probably can do this thing. But if nobody's ever had trainings or whatever, develop that skill, it may just be happening. The friend I'm going to say, Jessica Jones.
yeah.
She does it, I think, like a show where she astral projects. I think it's once every 2 months, like twice a month.
I'm not sure
It's
how
something.
often, but it's
Jessica Jones, the Cryptid Huntress, love her to death. Great lady. But I'll give you her contact information after this if you feel like you maybe want to talk to her about that. 'Cause she's
Okay, yeah.
I have a lot of mixed feelings about astral projection. I think there are a lot of snake oil salesmen
oh, for sure. But that's in anything.
and anything, but in that one, I think it's probably skewed a little bit more
Like a
towards them.
psychic?
Yeah, Like-
Palm reader.
yeah, those kind of things where you go to see like a television psychic.
Miss
Like,
Cleo.
I'm getting a
Yeah.
I'm getting a B name. I'm getting a B name. Oh, my dad's name's Bill.
You're halfway there. You mean you got the bandana? All you need is the accent.
I'm summoning.
I don't, I don't know what
I
you're
don't know what I
doing.
was doing. No. So I really think maybe that may be something to look into for you. Like I said, that's what I just shared with you is probably my whole extent of my knowledge on astral projection. But like I said, Jessica Jones, she's a great lady and good friend of the show. Love Jessica to death. But she's one of the ones I believe, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Because she gets really cool stuff.
Yeah.
I've never quizzed her or nothing like that, but I've watched her be kind of quizzed and prodded by other people. Maybe we're a little bit more. I'm not aggressive when it comes to this stuff. I just don't care. Like, if you're gonna lie about it or not, I don't care.
Yeah.
But some people that may be a little more aggressive, she answers questions really accurately and stuff like that. I don't know. What do you think about that?
No, yeah, that would be cool to get in touch with somebody who knows that stuff because, like I said, my dreams have only gotten more vivid and kind of crazy, and I lucid dream, and when I lucid dream, my marker to tell me I'm dreaming is light switches don't work.
Aha. Okay.
And so that's how I know I'm dreaming. And then I'm like, yeah, I do whatever I want, right? But there are these dreams, like the Roanoke dream, where I'm just there.
Right.
I don't recall, it doesn't come to me that I'm dreaming. I can't control anything. Nobody sees me. And then the other night I had this dream where I was literally gone for almost 24 hours. I was with this family. The dynamic was so chaotic. I got so scared I hid in their garage.
Wow.
And when I woke up, I was confused as to where I was, and then shocked that I realized it was a dream because I was there for so long.
Mm-hmm.
So, were you interacting with the family, or were they interacting with you, or you were just kind of watching?
They didn't see me.
So
Yeah, they couldn't see me.
I really think this could be some ghost.
Just astral projection.
Like if
people's consciousness.
Yes, like if you were in their house, like your spirit, your essence, whatever you want to go, I don't know what you believe, but for me it'd be your spirit is there, and maybe we talked about shadow people, for example, that they are probably not blacker than black. That's what everybody describes them. That's how I describe mine. Later on, we found out that is a function of the human brain that is not able to explain what it's seeing. What it does is it puts basically a black silhouette, a void, onto an identified threat, so you can deal with it. Most of the time it's not probably blacker than black, but your brain is like, I know there's something right there, humanish. Deal with it. Whether you run away, you fight it, whatever. I'm just trying to tell you that there's a threat there. Mm-hmm. And I mean, this is built off of that. Like, have you ever felt like somebody's watching you?
Yeah.
So a lot of those things are the primitive side of our brain will take pictures. Every time you're looking around, it takes pictures. And then next time you do it, it overlays the old picture and the new picture. And it looks for differences. If there's a difference, it lets you know, and that's one of the feelings it gives you. Like, hey, something way off in the background has changed. You know, it's time, like, most scientists believe it's from, like, when we have to deal with predators more often. Like, big cats, for example, would maybe poking out of the tree line looking at you, and then they pull their head back in.
And they're gone.
So, yeah, so now your brain's like, hey, heads up, there's a saber tooth somewhere, you know, close by. So, I wonder if you were a ghost for that family, and maybe the kids seen you, or maybe they didn't. Like I said, I really think you need to be open, I guess, to experience maybe the full array of things. Like,
Yeah.
but no, I kind of think you were somebody else's ghost there for a minute.
I wonder if I was a ghost in that trailer park in Roanoke. If people see a ghost that looks like me, I'm sorry. I didn't know what I was doing.
Remind me after this, we'll talk off air. I'll look up that trailer park and we'll do an episode on ghosts in that trailer park.
Oh.
I'm like, and I'll read one that matches your description. Be like, and this one's name was Robin.
Yeah, they have it. It's very specific.
Right.
No, I really do think there is something to that, and it could be interdimensional beings doing it too. I'm not saying good, bad, indifferent kind of things. You know, I think a lot of the interdimensional guys are not good, but I do think there are indifferent ones and maybe even good ones. Mothman's probably my best example for
Indifferent.
indifferent.
Yeah.
You know, some of our favorite. I don't know if you. I mean, that was a long time ago. Our first ever season finale, we did the Mothman encounters, and we did a whole episode on ones that never get talked about. And this Mothman character was most of the time was very scared, didn't bother anybody. So it wasn't. I think it was Linda Scarberry. The second time she's seen the Mothman, that's the one. That's the one that ran away in the car with the two couples that, you know, it was chasing them or whatever. They said it was chasing them. Her and her boyfriend seen it, or her and her husband seen it later. And she said it was squeaking like a mouse. And she said it was like it was asking for help. It seemed genuinely scared of where it was. Not threatening it whatsoever. This black creature with these big red eyes and these giant demonic wings. She's like, it wasn't scared of it. If anything, it seemed it was scared of us, and it was like it was asking for help or something. And then they both got low levels of radiation poisoning. They both got immediately sick. They went to the hospital, and they both were treated for radiation poisoning. So I don't know. I wonder if, you know, the interdimensional stuff is connected with all of this, the astral projection stuff. Mm-hmm. And they're maybe projecting here, and they don't know, like you didn't know, maybe if you were actually projecting to Roanoke. You didn't know you were doing that. You know, it freaked you out. Yeah. Or you end up in that family's house, it freaks you out. So the ghost, half the time the ghosts are just as scared as you, apparently.
Just imagine hiding, like, as a ghost, like, in a closet from a family, like, yo, please don't sense me.
Well, after I screamed at my shadow man, that's where he went to the garage.
Yeah, he's kind of mad at you.
Like,
I'm going to the garage.
But we talked about shadow people, like, running away from people, like people running around the corner, and then like these shadow entities almost look like they're scared of you.
Yeah,
and then they bolt.
I've seen videos like that I think are authentic. Like, guy opens up basement door, you know, and there's something like kind of there, and then it's.
So what if that was, you know, somebody like you that, or, you know, something like that where somebody's astral projecting, they don't maybe not even know they're doing it, and now this big weird looking thing slams open a door and starts chasing you.
Right. Yeah.
You're like, oh, you know. I don't know. Very interesting stuff.
Very, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, do you think it's all connected? Do you think you've just experienced a bunch of stuff in your life? Do you think you're open to it? I don't know. What's your idea for why you've had this myriad of encounters?
Well, if you want to know my very, very first story.
Yes, please.
It's a weird one, okay?
They've all been so normal.
I know, right? So this is my very first memory. I woke up at about 4 years of age. I had just had a dream, but it was flashes of scenes that I can only deduce were memories. And I woke up and I didn't know who I was or where I was. And there was a group of beings in front of me, but they were all shrouded in shadow. And they told me my name. They told me I was at home. And I got out of my bed and I went to my doorway and I saw a little girl. And I said, well, who is that? And they said, well, that's your sister. And they told me her name. And so I went up to her and I said, hey, when you woke up this morning, did you forget who you were? And she looked at me and said, you're weird. And she ran off. So this was my older sister. So she would have been about 5 or 6 at this time. The beings were still with me. And they said, don't say anything. They're not ready to know yet. And I said, okay. And I took off and I was a 4-year-old kid.
Wow.
And I figure that's where all of this comes from.
I think you might be onto something here.
I think that's a pretty good look into it. Like, a council starts telling you stuff.
Are they ready now?
You know, I had this dream where these kids, but they weren't black-eyed kids because they didn't have a face. They didn't have a face.
I don't know what's worse. I don't know what's worse. Faceless kids or black-eyed kids.
Yeah.
But they came up to me and they said, if you keep looking into us, you're going to have weird storms. And in the dream, we were having weird storms. We were having rainbows that were falling apart and large gusts of wind that were taking the kids away. And shortly after that dream, we kept having rainbows in the sky, and I was watching them, and I started to notice that they weren't fading like a normal rainbow fades, you know? It was like splotches, like they were breaking up. They were fading in pieces.
Mm-hmm.
So I always wondered, like, was that them telling me? Because I've been more curious as to who were that group of beings, you know? As I get older, I've been more curious. And so I wondered, was that them? Like, stop looking for us or something, you know?
I mean, now, I don't know how much you've looked into this, but it gives you very much abduction vibes.
Kind of, yeah.
Oh, they talk about that. These beings will often say, don't look into us, you know, don't pursue this. Mm-hmm. They'll tell you, like, all kinds of stuff. And how you were telling it was very reminiscent of that. Whatever abductions are, I'm not a big believer that it's aliens, as in extraterrestrials from another planet inside of our galaxy or whatever.
Right.
They may be interdimensional, they may be paranormal. I don't know. I believe in abductions. I don't think they're aliens, if that makes any sense. Yeah. But abduction vibes, you know, similar things have happened, especially with kids. The abduction kid phenomena, because you were 4 years old, and this council, if they were good beings, for example, if this council is telling this to a 4-year-old.
Shrouded in darkness?
Yeah. Shrouds of darkness.
Yeah.
And then if you look into us, you get these kind of vague threats. You know, that's, to me, doesn't scream supportive role model.
No.
You know, it's not like the Intergalactic Council or something that's like, yeah, you're one of the special ones, you know?
Yeah.
You're going to be, you know, you're going to have a weird life, but it's good. You know, you're going to see some stuff. No, you look into us, you'll have weird storms.
Yeah.
And that's a perfect analogy for kind of some stuff you've had in your life, you know, these weird storms, you know?
Yeah.
Of whether it's a giant flying jellyfish coming to eat you and your sister, or the reverse, or the man keeps flashing, the carpet disappears. Yeah. And Roanoke itself, to me, we didn't even cover that. We talk about that. Roanoke is a weird place. Mm-hmm. Roanoke has had a lot of weird things happen, like a whole bunch of people.
I had another weird dream shortly after the Roanoke revelation, where I was walking through my neighborhood with this Native American boy, whom I don't know in real life, but in the dream, we were like romantically together. And we're walking past the freeway, and there is this giant man with a bird head, and he's carrying a hawk. And the hawk reaches up and bites his hand, and he gets mad, and he punts the hawk. And shortly after having that dream, I heard on another podcast, some Native American girl that was unearthed in Virginia, I think, but I don't remember clearly. And she had a necklace of a hawk man, or a bird-headed man. So I don't know. I've also had a Pennsylvania dream. I don't know.
What? Well, okay. Let's talk about the Pennsylvania dream.
Well, it was just a weird one. I walked up to, it looked like a town home, but it was very pretty. And I see the address numbers, although right now I can't remember them. And I put my hand on it and I said, I used to live here. And I walked into their little courtyard and they were having a party. But again, this dream is very old. This is from a while ago. But nobody interacted with me. Nobody saw me. But whoever lived there was like having a party. There were stringed lights along the yard. It was very pretty. But I knew I was in Pennsylvania.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a dream.
And that speaks to more what we talked about earlier with maybe these like astral projecting kind of things, where you're getting these information dumps. Because they get those.
Yeah.
Where, you get these, in past life regressions, another thing I don't know tons about. But that kind of could seem like one of those things too, where you're like, I lived here or I live here, and you're experiencing that kind of phenomena. And I think it just comes back to it that I do think whether the council made you more sensitive or you seen the council because you were already sensitive, I kind of believe it that way. I don't trust into any entities that will not tell you anything. These are like whether they're aliens or interdimensional things or whatever. A lot of times they just give you so much vague information and threats and nothing. Like tell me,
Right? Yeah.
like write it down if you need to. Like
it's funny. That's like kind of how our government operates.
yeah, no, very similar. Very similar. Probably the same people. It was never mind. I said was going to say it was somebody very politically powerful. Was one of the robed in shroud guys.
Yeah. No, I think it's people behind the scenes.
Yeah, I do
all
too.
of them. Yes.
No, I think you're just. Like, I don't know what the better word besides sensitive is, but sensitive, where you don't turn away from these things. These things happen to you. You experience these things, and brain mutation is about the best thing I could point to it because there's tons.
Can we think of like a better name?
It's a good thing. Mutation.
I know it is. I know it is. It just has like a
Well, I mean, you think of a better name and I'll
stigma.
use it.
Okay. Brain advantage.
So, like Albert Einstein's brain, for example. Okay, he had. It's not gray matter. It's the other stuff. I can't think of the other. It's basically the stuff that fuels the neurotransmitters.
Okay.
He was born with twice the amount of any other human.
Like neurons?
No, it's a filler material.
Oh, okay.
But it's like the median that helps transfer stuff. They never knew if he was born with that because obviously they didn't cut his brain open until after he was dead. They didn't know he was born with that, or that was because the way he was exercising his brain, his body adapted that.
More, yeah.
I think he was born with it. And not saying he was not going to be a smart man or whatever without that, but I think it's what led him to the path that he took. He couldn't do basic math.
So how do you get more of that stuff? Can you just inject it into your brain?
It's made of cholesterol.
Ooh. What's that mean?
You take whatever you think out of that.
Okay.
It's made of cholesterol. So I wonder if the group, and I don't know, I think me and my family were born into that because we had, if anybody goes back and listens to those episodes, tons of the paranormal things that we were all experiencing and we didn't talk about until after kind of deal. And we just all were kind of suffering individually. Like the night I had my child person encounter, I told Dad, and Dad never questioned it. Took everybody. We left. We left that night. And later on, Dad had all kinds of encounters, but he never told anybody because you think you're crazy until your uncle says, "Yeah, I seen the same thing going in the same spot."
Yeah.
Or and describes it the same way. So I think some are born with it. I guess it's the long way of saying that.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you think?
That's good. I mean, I can agree with you. Like, my brother, when I had my weird encounters, in my bedroom with the clothes moving in the closet or not, I didn't really want to talk about it. But then I mentioned it to my brother, and he used to live in that same room when he was growing up, and he brought up 3 separate things that happened to him that he never said a word about. It's like, thanks for the warning. I wouldn't have been so eager to move into your room once you left the house. But that's what happens.
Yeah, it's a demon room.
Apparently so.
Yeah. No, it's from astral projections to time slips to giant jellyfish.
That's the room I tried to astral project into. I tried when I was...
Did you try?
I tried when I was dreaming, yeah. I tried to lucid dream, never worked.
Yeah, I think you gotta be born with it. I don't think... I really don't think it's something...
I tried.
maybe we all are born with it. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, the old Nance Derek Goats, they searched for a long time to find the core group.
Right, yeah.
But I don't know. Like I said, we'll talk after we get off here about connecting you with some people that I think may have a little bit more knowledge
Yeah.
than we do, especially for if that's maybe something you want to expand research into. You know, we'll be happy to kind of set you up into those group of people.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing. Do you have
Yes.
anything else? This has been amazing. Hopefully, some of our insights helped, on something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I've had as far as that 4-year-old story, I've just started being more comfortable telling people about it, and I've had somebody tell me, well, maybe you were abducted. And then maybe I'm an alien in this body. But I'm not sure.
See, I don't think you are, personally.
Yeah.
We've been doing this show for a while. I've done hundreds and hundreds of hours of research into that kind of stuff.
Mm.
I don't think you are, but I think they like to make you think those things.
Mm-hmm.
That they have more power than they really do, kind of deal. That they help make you special when you were, in my opinion, probably already, that level. And they these entities seem to like to step in and kind of help steer it how they want it to go. Like we did this for you. We helped you.
Yeah.
And I really don't think it is. I think you have this ability. You were born with these things. And that sometimes there's parasites that come along with this stuff.
Riding the coattails.
Yeah. I mean, there's parasites. Anybody that didn't know this interesting biology fact, out of all species of everything on the planet right now, 2/3 of them are parasitic. So there's 2 species of parasite for every non-parasitic species.
That sink in.
Yeah, it's horrible. So I assume I'm gonna imagine that tracks over once we start getting into paranormal biology.
It's speculative biology.
Speculative biology.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
But no, thank you for sharing again. We'll talk off air after we end here in a second. It's been great. I really do appreciate it. Hopefully, like I said, the jellyfish stuff helped. I know the rest of it is not our expertise, but we loved hearing it.
Absolutely, yeah.
But yeah, I think maybe I'm going to go 32% chance it was trying to eat you.
Ooh. You gave a percentage this time.
Yeah,
it's been a while.
what's your percentage? It was trying to eat her.
33.
Well, there you go. Jay has less faith in you than I do.
No, I had more faith that it was hungry.
No, I have more faith that she was just seeing something that already existed.
Oh, gotcha. Oh, I see. Oh, it still may have been...
I'm just saying.
It still may have been trying to eat her.
No. So...
I thought that was your percentage.
We like to end this a certain way. And here in a second, well, the outro will play and everything. We're going to count down from 3. We'll all scream by, the outro will play, and then we'll talk. Sound good?
Okay.
All right. 3, 2, 1.
Bye.
Bye.
Hey guys, thank you for listening to Cryptids of the Corn podcast. Remember, the best way to support the show is share it with a friend. But if you are craving more of the J clones
And more from Mr. E.
there's always extra content on Patreon.
And our paid member space on cryptidsofthecorn.com.
We'll catch you next time with more exciting, fun, and informative information. Bye.